one instructional coach for technology at North Garland High School. Crazy thing is, if you don't know me, I got put into this position on March 2nd from being in the classroom. I've taught 7th and 8th grade science for the past 5 years. Hey, Ms. Johnson. This was a brand new position for me to jump into right when this all happened. So I'm learning with y'all, but I know how it is to be a classroom teacher. So this is a tool that I've loved over the years, and I've used it a lot. So I did want, Chris, if you want to unmute your mic real quick, will you introduce yourself and just let people know who you are?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I saw Ashley tweeted about this session a few days ago, and I wanted to offer up my services. My name is Chris. I actually was a teacher back in New Jersey for about 7.5 years, also science, so that's cool. Yeah, I actually work for Quizalize now. I moved to London with my fiance. That's where I am now. And that's where Zish, which is actually the company that makes Quizalize, is located. So I'm here now. I work for Quizalize. I do like account management and customer success management. And I thought I'd kind of maybe drop by, and if there's any questions anyone had, you can maybe just throw them in the chat. I think that might be the best way to do it, and then I can address it in the chat and let kind of Ashley get continue with the webinar with what she wants to say. So yeah, that's basically it. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you. Okay, so on here, and I just put it in the chat also, but there is a sign-in for you. So if you could just take a minute to do that sign-in, that just kind of helps us figure out who is on here, and we're all trying to get Google certified right now. So just having different trainings under our belts helps us. And then the copy of the slides, there's also a link for that. So you can actually get this presentation. Good thing about it is I put all the information you need in it, and there's even like animated GIFs of how to do it. So not just words, but also videos to watch, just so you know how to set everything up if you don't do it right when we're doing this webinar live. So I'm gonna give you a minute. And like I said, I copy and pasted those into the chat, and I can do that one more time just in case you didn't see them. And you can just click on those links to sign in, and then to get a copy of the presentation. And then while y'all are working on that, I did just want to mention that this link will become clickable once you get the slide, and I'll put it in the chat in just a second too. But this is actually the link you'll go to apply to get the premium for Quizalize until August, and that's amazing. But this is a tool I used in my class, like I said before, and I think it adds up to be like $5 a month maybe to use it throughout the school year. It's not incredibly expensive, and it was one of those that I thought was worth it just because it has so much involved in it, where it can make one lesson with one link instead of having to put things all over the place and having students have to go find it. So once you get a copy of the slides, and like I said, I'll put this in the presentation also. Hold on one second, let me get this link for you, and then you can sign up for the premium. There's that. All right, so like I said, if you want to set up an account while I'm doing this, feel free to do that. You can just open up a new window and be able to click and kind of see the screen at the same time. But I did put all of the information on this presentation with little GIFs or videos. So you can do this in your own time if you just want to watch today. But I did want to start out with you seeing what this would look like from a student view. So I'm actually going to have you play a little 3-question game on here. So it's not a long one, but it is about plate tectonics. So if you're not a science person, you don't know it, you may get some of them wrong, but it was just one that I already had created. So what you're going to do, and this is what students would do also, you're going to go to zzi.sh, and this is your student link. And then once you get there, it's going to ask for a class code, and your class code is going to be NCQ And once again, I will get that copy and pasted and put into the chat so it's easier for you to click on. But if you want to get started on that, and then it's going to ask you for your name, and then you're just going to answer 3 questions. But you know, the day that you choose to do a presentation, your computer wants to go so slow. So give me 1 second to get this linked. So you're pretending you're a student right now, and you're just going to go to the zzi.sh. Your class code is NCQ6855. And then it's going to ask for your name. And then from there, it will ask you 3 questions. It's about plate tectonics, how plates move on Earth. Throwback to some science information if you don't teach it. And then once you finish those 3 questions, at the very end, it's going to give you an option to see your results. So view your results, and then from there, you're able to click and see the activities that you have to do to follow up. And so based on your score, it's going to give you a follow-up activity. So it could be that you really don't know your plate tectonics, so it's going to give you a lot of background information on them. And that linked, I'm pretty sure that one linked to a brain pop video. So just getting you getting the introduction of what those plates are and the movements are. If you got 2 out of the 3 questions right, it's going to send you to a website where it would actually give you some animations on what the plates are moving and how they're doing it. And then if you got all 3 questions right, the follow-up activity would be like an extension activity, and it would take you to get information about what's happening at these different plate tectonic sites around Earth. And so you are able to kind of explore further than just what the movement is, but figure out what type of experience you would have there if you lived there. So if you've been able to see a little bit of the student view, go ahead and give me a thumbs up so you're kind of ready to move on. Yeah, awesome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started just so we get this done within the time period and it's not too long. So that was what it looks like from a student view, but this is just an overall explanation of what Quizalize is. And actually I got a few of these statements from Chris the other day when I was on his webinar. So this is a gamified digital environment. But the good thing about it is that it's all browser based. And what we like about that is that students aren't worried about getting an app. That's one thing that can be hard for a lot of our students, and with us in Garland ISD, our students can have 2 different types of devices, whether they have a Chromebook or an iPad. So something that's browser based is awesome for our students to use. So it is going to allow for a live game or homework. So even with our remote learning right now, or at home learning, you're able to set this at different times. If you want to do it during your office hours, you're able to play a live game with them. But if you want them to do this assignment on their own time throughout the week, you can set that up. The data from this is amazing because students are able to take it multiple times, and you can see how they grow over the periods that they've taken it. Interventions. This is exactly how I set up my small groups. And so even with distance learning right now, you're still able to do that. What I have done, especially with some of my teachers, we played this game last week and we got to see kind of how it works. And from there, I was able to connect with some teachers that didn't do as well on the questions. It was all about Google Classroom. So they weren't doing well. I set up a time to specifically meet with them about the topic, and you could do this also. So have your office hours for these specific students that you could talk to them if they weren't doing so well here are like your, your average students, and then your extension students, you could talk to them separately and kind of set your own small groups that way. Differentiation's amazing. Obviously, it's going to set up follow activities based on what your grade was or your performance. So you don't have to worry about, okay, well, I need to push out this assignment to these students because they did not do well. These kids did awesome, so I have to push out this assignment. This puts it all into one, and you don't have to worry about it. And then same thing, it centralizes all of it. So saving us time, but maximizing our lessons. So first steps, we need to get logged in. So you're actually going to go to Quizalize.com. And if you had a copy of this slide, this little logo is actually linked. So you can just click on that logo and it would open up the Quizalize for you. But it's just Quizalize.com. And then from here, there is a blue teacher login button. So we're just going to go to our teacher login. And then let's see if it'll pop up on mine. But you want to sign in with Google. So then it just puts everything through your domain. And it will actually be able to connect to your Google Classrooms in just a second. So it didn't let me click on there. But whenever you start logging in, you want to click the sign in with Google button. Sorry. Sign in with Google button so that you are able to have all of the domain is all together. So then from here, you're able to add your courses. And the cool thing about being able to add your courses and classes on here is that it will actually pre-filter some material that's already been pre-made for you. So you don't have to worry about setting up all of your own quizzes and such. It's a lot of information that is already out there for you. So another time saver, we like that. And so on here, you can see I have some 4 classes set up. Some are practice classes. And then when I was in the classroom, I set up my courses by my on-level kids and then my honors kids just to make it a little bit easier for me. But if you wanted to have a class for every single one of your sections, you can do that also. So then on here, one thing that I always did is I had my students add themselves. So from here, when you add your class, you can either sync it with Google Classroom with this button up here, and you can connect it to your class. Or if you just create the class, then you're able to have students enter with the code. So you're going to give them a class code and they can enter it that way. You are able to register them with their Google account, or if they have a Microsoft account, depending on what district you are, or putting in their email and password, like creating their own. But I just know, especially teaching middle school and now being in high school, my students could handle this on their own. So I would have them do it that way. Or like I said, sync it with Google Classroom. So you're able to set up your classes that way, and it's really, really easy. So from here, you're going to create your activities. So you can create quizzes and assignments, or used Yes, thank you. So you've got to set it up with Google Classroom at the beginning if you're going to sync it. So you have 2 options here. You can create your own quizzes and assignments, or you can use pre-made ones. Once you set up those courses, like I said, it will filter through material that would connect to your course. The great thing about this, and Chris said this the other day, but Texas has a ton of users on here. So there's a lot of quizzes that are based on TEKS already. And even when I've been, playing around with this to look at high school and algebra, different classes that are now high school level rather than middle school, I found a lot of stuff that I necessarily wouldn't know because I haven't taught those courses. But there are 2 options, like I said, creating your own or finding pre-made ones. So once you are on here, you are able to assign a new activity, and you can click on this button to start, or you can click on the create at the very top to make your own. So here's your discover page, and on here is where you can find pre-made different assignments. There's a search bar, so you can search for a specific TEK or like type of lesson. If I was still in the classroom, we would be just finishing up Newton's laws. So that's something that I could type in here and be able to search and find what pre-made assignments there already are. Or if I knew there were certain questions I wanted to ask, then I would click on the create new, and then I'm able to set up my own questions. Now, when you set up these questions, you're able to connect it directly to a TEK. And like I said, once we look at data, this is amazing to see how students are growing with their different with their different attempts that they're looking at these different TEKs. Sorry. Okay, so on here, you can put your title, and then this is my favorite thing where you can align it to a standard. So every single time I did that so that I could see student growth over time, because this is a really good one that you can even do a pre-test and like a post-test on. So it's a really, really cool thing. So from there, it's pretty simple, just like setting up, it reminds me a lot of like On Learning or quizzes when you're setting questions up. Just type your question in, put your correct answer, here are your incorrect answers. You can actually give them an explanation as to why this question or why this answer is correct, and I really liked that. There's math mode on here, which is really cool. So you're able to put different math equations, and you can put images. You can have it reading or you can add audio to it. So if you need to put your voice on there, or you can have it read the question. So there's a lot of options on here. You also have a timer on here, which I'll talk about more in just a second. So from there, you're able to save it to your library, or you can save it and give it directly to your class. And it's pretty simple to use. So now, going to the next one. So when you're setting, oh, stop it, sorry. Good. Setting your assignments. This is where you have a lot of functionality with what options you have, and some pretty cool things happening here. So I'm gonna go to my activity list, which is where I have my assignments set up, but not in this class. Here we go to this one. So for instance, this is the one that y'all just did, and I am able to edit this assignment. And when you create one, this is what you're gonna see at the very end of it. But here are my options to play in class, assign a homework, or if I started out, I could put this as an actual exam. So you can put your start and your end date if you want it to lock at a specific time, like your assignment has to be done by this Friday. Here's where it will shut off. There is the mastery mode, which means that they have to get every single question correct before they can submit it. Obviously, sound and music, we like that. Kids like that too. Okay, so the timer is really cool because you can put a timer on each question, but if the students don't answer it within that timer, it doesn't say that their question is wrong. And that's what I really like about it, because I have some students that are really eager and they want to, get the best score possible. So they would try to answer questions as quickly as possible. But then I had some students that hated the timer, and I was like, hey, with this tool, you don't have to worry about it. You're not going to get it wrong if you don't answer within that time. All the timer does really is add like bonus points. So the quicker you're able to answer them, the more points you're going to get. So for leaderboard purposes, it's really fun in that gamified version. But I always told my students that had anxiety about the timer, do not freak out about it, because you still can answer the question. Take as much time as you need. So if you want to just have them do a select number of questions, you can pick that. And then under advanced options, you can randomize your order, allow them to see their results, or you can turn that off. Give them that feedback that you entered on each question. You can show them the correct answer, but if you're having them do this multiple times, I wouldn't allow them to do that. And then show your work. So I love this feature because students can actually like take a picture of their work, specifically if they were doing math or having to draw something for me. They could upload it directly to that question, and then they are able to show that, hey, I did something with this, I know how to do it, and show their proof. So these are different options for you. You can also add comments, just a lot of functions. So like I said, you can control the number of attempts that they can take. And if you don't want them to see if they got it wrong, just turn it off. Allows them to attach those photos of their work. And you're able to assign it to more than one class at a time. So you don't have to worry about going in and doing it for every single one of your sections. All right. Okay, so once you have set up your activity, you're going to be asked about follow-up activities. So for this, you're able to set up 3 different activities, and they can be anything that is browser-based, meaning it can be anything that has a link. So there are times where I would set up my own Pear Deck notes or even Pear Deck activities, and I just put the link in there, and the students would go to that after. PhET simulations, you can also get those on Nearpod if you have Nearpod. I would record myself with Screencastify a lot, Google Docs, YouTube, Edpuzzle, any of the websites. There are tons and tons and tons of options out there, and there are pre-made activities on here too. So when you're filling out your quiz and you have your specific TEKs, there may be activities that are already set up for this, and you can just link them to your quiz. Makes it very simple. So I did want to give you an example, and I put this in the speaker notes on this slide. So when you have a copy of it, you're able to see this. But this is just an example of something I would do with my students if I were setting up a follow activity. So for my students that were really low, so they've got a 50% or lower on it, I would actually do a record myself teaching. So it's kind of like them seeing a lecture again in a way, but a lot of times I would record my screen and be able to show the work that they should have been doing. So for instance, when we did counting atoms, students had to look at a chemical formula, and I would actually show them how they should be doing their work. I make my students draw like rainbows to be able to connect to their coefficients and subscripts, if you know what that is. But just to make sure that they were doing it right, I would show them a video so they could practice on their own. For my middle tier, my middle level, I'd be able to create a Pear Deck, something that they could practice with. So they know the material for the most part, but they do need more opportunities to see it and be able to work with it. So I would put like drawing slides on a Pear Deck, and then they'd be able to draw the work and be able to show everything that they know. Lastly, for my advanced students, I would give them a PhET simulation, or I would have them create their own videos explaining how they do this work. So maybe they're going to teach their classmates on how to count atoms, or there are amazing PhET simulations about chemistry that could take them to the next level and get them more practice on like high school level chemistry rather than just that 8th grade level. So you have a lot of options with it. As long as it's web-based, you're able to set up the follow-up activity with it. And then, so here is a GIF on here of how to do it. So you can just watch this, and once you set up your quiz, it's really easy. After you set it up, it will show you, and then you just click on each one and add the link, and you're good to go. But that's only when you set up the quiz, so make sure you do it while you're setting it up. There is a way to edit it, right, Chris? Yes, I don't remember exactly. So that's one thing that was a question I had for him at the very end to explain if there was. So data, this is the one thing that I know we were huge at my school about, and being able to look at how your students are doing. So it's going to put them in groups based on their needs. And that's the one thing that was amazing to see right away. It actually like colors little people for you, so you know exactly what level they're at. And then you are also able to put it in order by the attempt. So you don't just have to look at, okay, well, you know, out of the 3 times they did this, they were able to score this. That's not going to help us. But if we can see how they did from attempt 1 to attempt 3, then that's going to help us see how they grew and did those follow-up activities actually help them. With improvement, it will show the different like percentages they were able to get through them, and looking at most missed questions. So that is a really, really good thing for them to be able to see also. So I wanted to show you what this looks like from teacher view also. So for instance, this is the one that y'all just did, and 5 people took it. So 3 were advanced, they did awesome, and then 2 missed 1 question. So still doing really, really well, but I'm able to see exactly how they are. And then I can click and analyze these results. But I'm gonna show you what this one I did with my staff last week, so you can just see more students in it. And on here, as it loads, you are able to see exactly who would need their help, who needs help right away, who are nearly there, and then who are really strong. It also shows who hasn't finished yet, so that's really good to know if they started and didn't finish. The most missed question, here are your tasks, and you can delete, edit there. And then improvement, so this is the one where it's going to show how did their percent of improvement over time. And then here's just the results table. You are also able to download this if you need it. So that's an option for you to download it. But on here, there are just so many options for you to click and see right away what students are needing help with, and like it puts them in just this beautiful, colorful grid view where you're able to see everything you need as a teacher. So this is what I did during class, and I would just have this up on my computer and be able to see, okay, here's my small group, like I need to talk to these students right now, which is what you can do and set up office hour times with them now. Oh. Okay, so from data, feedback for students, I think this is the biggest thing now with us being in distance learning and not being able to talk to students and, you know, give them the amount of feedback we normally did in the classroom. Plus, we're not sure what's happening with grades in our district yet. So just getting that feedback to them is the most important thing to help them grow over this time. And one thing that Chris mentioned the other day, which I thought was amazing, is if you click on the what they need help with section, these are going to show all of the questions and how much are the percentage and what students answered the question correctly versus which ones answered them wrong. The really cool feature about this is you're able to hide the student names. So you can actually look at this with your class, and you could set up a Google Meet to do this during your office hours and go over each question and say, okay, well, what happened here? Because we can see that 62 of us need help with this question. So we need to figure out what's going on. And it's just an amazing way to be able to go over what the material is with your students and how they can improve from here. And if you don't have time to do this live, you could also do a screencastify and just record yourself going over this data and then put it into Google Classroom for students. So student dashboard, you saw this from your side, and that's why I wanted you to play a little game so that you can see what the students are going to see. But the amazing thing is that they're only going to see the assignments in order that they need to do them. So one recommendation that I have is don't put too many assignments live at once, or students could get confused about what their next like option is for them to go to. So if you just keep that one assignment on there, then it will only link to their follow-up activity, and then they can replay after that and be able to keep going through the activities. So the student dashboard is awesome, and that's just what they'll get when they go to that zzi.sh link like you did. So that is just an overview of all of it. I didn't go into too many details about how to set everything up, but like I said, it's in this presentation. And if you have any questions, please add them to the chat or just unmute your mic and you can say them real quick. But I'm here to help. And then here's all my information on this last slide. And then Chris obviously is here, and he knows way more than I do. So he's able to help us at this time. So pop your questions in. And I know Ms. Johnson asked a question. I didn't know if it got answered. I think he did.
Yeah. So my question was just like, when you, at the beginning, when you set up, you said something about you can put it in Google Classroom or not, or something like that. And so I was just wondering, like, is there like an advantage of doing one or over the other?
You want me to take it?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, there's another question I think you had that I can answer as well. So with Google Classroom, notice how she had you go to zzi.sh because she doesn't have a Google Classroom set up for you as a student. So you had to go through what we call the simple login, which is going to zzi.sh in the browser.
Okay.
If you have your class synced with Google Classroom, students don't have to go to zzi.sh at all. Everything that you assign in Quizalize will show up in their Google Classroom automatically. So it keeps everything even more centralized, because now students don't have to go anywhere other than Google Classroom to get access to the activities and quizzes that you're setting through Quizalize. But also right now, the quiz results, they don't currently get pushed back to your Google Classroom gradebook, but they will be very soon. So if you have another, in the future, when you do a Google Classroom class and you give a quiz through Quizalize, we're going to push the results automatically back to Google Classroom for you, so that if you want them to be put in your gradebook automatically without having to manually transfer them over, that's going to be possible in the future as well.
That's cool.
And with that, Chris, with that automatically, it syncs their name into it. So instead of having them having to type their name, it will automatically be in there, and you don't have to worry about kids being funny and trying to put different names on there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you have that,
they try to do sometimes.
It's great from the privacy perspective because there's a lot of issues with student privacy. So when students have to enter just their name, then you're literally not collecting any student information at all. So that's good for a variety of reasons, from a business perspective as well. When we want to be used in a district, sometimes that can be challenging because the districts make you jump through about 6 or 7 hoops before teachers can use it. And there's a good reason for that, but that's also a lot of red tape to get through. So to be able to get the teachers in order to get the teachers to be using it, more quickly instead of having to wait for the approvals, then the simple login doesn't ask for any student information, so it can be used more widely. But then again, with the Google Classroom, we're not getting any information about the students at all. It's all going through Google. So as long as you guys are okay with Google having all the student data, then it amounts to just about the same thing.
Okay.
I think, Rodney, you said you had a question about the Google Classroom as well?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, when you sync Google Classroom is unclear, what is the sequence of operations to sync to Google Classroom? So I brought it back to this page for a presentation just so you can see. This is like adding a new class. And I think Chris said that the only time you have the option to sync with Google Classroom is when you add this class. You can't go back and do it later.
That is correct. So if you create a class and that class is not initially synced, then you can't go back to that class and sync it after the fact. It has to go through Google's API, and it's just a very specific sequence of events that have to happen. So every time you create a class, you're going to see this screen as long as you've signed in with your Google account, register with your Google account. Every time you create a class, you'll see this screen, and you just have to sync it with Google Classroom. And the class already has to exist in your Google Classroom. Otherwise, there's nothing to sync it to.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions for now? Chris, is there a way to edit your follow-up activities once you got them started?
Actually, it's the follow-up activity. Technically, when you first assign your quiz, even before you assign your follow-up activities, your quiz is actually assigned.
Okay.
So the follow-up activity is a little bit decoupled simply because it allows you that flexibility to add them later or remove them later. But as long as they're there, students will be directed to do them. Okay,
awesome. So if you just wanted to edit them, could you just go to the Analyze area, and this is where you can edit it from here?
Yes.
Okay,
so
awesome.
As you can see the delete button, and then you can add them a little bit later as well.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. I think that was the one thing I was like, I'm unsure of.
Yeah. So actually, I wanted to mention this as well because you brought up the editing after a quiz has been assigned, and you were able, because of the way that you set up this class, you were able to edit a lot of different features. I will say that when you have it assigned through Google Classroom, it does limit your ability to edit the quiz after the fact because it's already gone to Google Classroom. So it's you know what I mean. There's a few less options that you're able to edit after you assign it.
Okay. So is it best to, if you're going to create an assignment on here, create the assignment and then save it to your library before you assign it to those classes? Or does it still automatically go to that Google class if you have it synced?
When you assign the quiz, you have an option not to have it sent to Google Classroom. That's possible. But I do also want to make sure that there's a little bit of a distinction between the quiz itself and the activity. So the quiz itself is just the questions. Like when you think about it like a paper quiz, you create a paper quiz of 10 questions, and that paper quiz is just sitting as a Word document in your computer. When you print it out and give it to your students, you can give them all sorts of additional guidelines when it comes to taking that quiz. Can they use your notes? Can they not use your notes? Can they work together? Can they not work together? How much time do they have? So those are what we would call activity settings. They're additional settings that you would apply to the quiz each time you assign the quiz. And that's true in our platform as well. So the quiz itself is very static. It's just the questions and certain, there's some features that you can add to the questions like the feedback. But when you assign the quiz, that's when you get that long list of activity settings that give you a lot of different options for what the parameters for that quiz is going to be for the students. So like when it's available, how many attempts they have, how many of the 10 questions do they actually have to answer. That's also decoupled as well. So one thing that we sort of struggle with is we know that because there's lots of different options, it can be a little bit overwhelming to teachers. But of course, once you sort of get a handle of a lot of the different options, it's so customizable to what you want to do that it really fits a whole bunch of different needs that teachers have.
Yeah. No, and it is an awesome tool. Like I said, I loved it, used it in my class before, and I just like that automatic feedback that it gives you, and the amount of data that's a little bit different than just using Google Forms and, you know, the ones that we're so used to. This has so much incorporated in it, and it's all in one place. And I think that's one thing that can help our students and parents right now, just because we know there's so much going on with all their different classes, and they get overwhelmed when they see, you know, 5 assignments that are posted. But if you can put it in one place and, you know, allow them to just have that one thing to focus on, they're not worried about, okay, well, I have all these things I have to get done by Friday. They, you know, it kind of tricks them a little bit.
I literally work for Quizalize because I wish I had it when I was still teaching.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not kidding at all. I remember when I first found them, I was in a car in New Jersey. My mom was driving, I was in the passenger seat, and we were preparing for our move to London, and I was actually in the passenger seat looking up jobs in London, and I found Quizalize, and immediately it said that you could automatically differentiate. And I had just recalled my time in the classroom about how difficult that was, how to bucket my students in the right groups to make sure that they're getting the most effective follow-ups. And I was like, I'm definitely going to apply it to this job. And I did. And here we are. So unfortunately, I never actually got a chance to use it in the classroom. Part of the reason I wanted so badly to be part of this is because Ashley has actually used it in the classroom. And that's really valuable to me to sort of hear her talk about it and see what sticks out to her. Because now, on the one hand, a lot of things I thought it would be great for, she's sort of confirming for me, but also it's very important for me to get, you know, additional feedback on how you guys are seeing it, how she's presenting it, and that helps a lot with us in terms of how we design the product, how we market it, how I deal with customers and their questions. So this has been really valuable to me. Thank you, Ashley.
No, thank you for joining, because definitely, like I said, you know a lot more than I do. And I just want to show one more thing. It is on a GIF on here, but I wanted to show how easy it is to get topics that are already created. So like quizzes and such that are already created. If you go to your resources tab at the top and then discover, there are some that are already on here. So for instance, a human body quiz, which I know Ms. Johnson, y'all may be reviewing some human body stuff coming up. But so this is already done for you. And all you have to do if you want to use this quiz, once you've looked at it, is click on edit. And then it will actually give you a copy, and you can edit what you need to edit for it. But then it's already there, made for you, and then you can assign it to your students from there. So you don't need to worry about always creating your own necessarily. And that's one benefit we have to a lot of teachers, Texas teachers having this, is that a lot of them are already connected to TEKS that we teach. So there's a ton on there. And I mean, it's not even just core classes. They have elective things on there. There's a ton when I started exploring to get ready for this presentation. So you're able to edit, and it's awesome.
So this one's actually, this one looks like it's tagged to the NGSS standards, which I don't think are actually TEKS, but that's fine. I'm actually glad you did that, because if you click that, you're editing your own copy of this quiz. You don't have to do it now, but if you were to click on that X, you could take the same quiz that somebody else created that was tagged to a different set of standards and then re-tag it to your own.
Right, so you can just click on here, find Texas.
Or even if you don't find content that's automatically tagged to your own standards, but you do find content that seems valuable, but it's untagged or it's tagged with different standards, it's really easy to go.
That's nice.
No.
That's so nice.
Everything is teacher
Awesome. All right, did y'all have any other questions right now? And just so you know, if you have any questions in the future, my email address is on the very end of that presentation. So you can just email me if you need it. And then Chris, he is on Twitter, active on Twitter. I don't know if you want to add like your Twitter to there, or if you have an email you can share and talk to people. I don't know. I don't want to push anything on you. But just know that I'm here to help with anything. And I have a ton more webinars coming in the future. So if you need anything, just let me know, especially if you are in a middle school or elementary school where y'all don't have one-to-one coaches. Just let us know, because we are here and willing to help with other schools. So
I'm gonna drop a couple links.
My dear.
okay. All right, he's gonna put some information in the chat. So if you need that, just make sure you click on that. And then, oh yeah, and I linked to the help page of Quizalize on the very last slide too. And they have great like step-by-step tutorials. They have their YouTube videos linked in there too. So really, really easy to follow.
Okay, let's look used to these British keyboards. So there's a couple of Twitter handles, but yeah, those tutorials, you're gonna get, the voice is gonna sound familiar. So I'm actually adding more, especially ones that are more geared towards distance learning and what we're doing now. It's also interesting. Another reason I wanted to be here to kind of support Ashley is I had actually planned to do more webinars in the future that are specifically about differentiation. So basically what she talked about today, I'm 100% going to do some in the future as well. And hopefully if there's any teachers out there that have done differentiation in the classroom and want to join me and help out, that would be great as well.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank y'all so much for coming today. And like I said, if you need anything, let me know. It was good to see you, Ms. Johnson. Thank you so much.
This is good. We're learning new stuff. So
yeah,
you're happy
so
for
proud.
us. Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Ashley. Take care. Have a good night.
Chris.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Rodney. Thank you.